economy, the world, our modern ways and standards of living, the housing market, the rising price of tuition being what they are, a lot of people are carrying substantially more debt than they were in generations past. I know a lot of people think you can just work your way through college and you should just get a job and buy a house, but that is not the reality of where a lot of us are at today. I know my generation, I'm an old millennial, don't have the ability to go out and buy real property for $100,000. I talk all the time to my parents about the type of house I'd like to go out and buy, with how many children I have and the number of bedrooms I want to have and the way I would like my house to look. And we're constantly going back and forth about whether or not I should buy something and fix it up or buy something ready to go. And I think what's lost on a lot of older people or people who own homes or people who aren't as affected by the current economy is they don't necessarily understand how much things cost anymore. So if you go out and buy a house, instead of having an $80,000 mortgage like you might have had when you bought your house for $105,000 in 1990, your mortgage might be $500,000 or something even larger, depending upon where you live, the market in your area, and so on. I think I also heard on the news that people were saying that they're spending so much more for gas, groceries, clothing, the regular things we were also used to buying based on the way that cost has risen and wages haven't necessarily kept up. What does that create? That creates a lack of savings and it can create an increase in debt. Tuition has gone up substantially over the last forever. And so now to go to an undergrad institution, you're spending a lot more money than you would have been when I went to an undergrad institution 15 or 16, 17 years ago. So with just the way that costs have risen and the way that wages are, and this isn't political, it has nothing to do with who you vote for. I don't care. What it has to do with is the fact that because of the reality of this, debt has increased. And you can go on the internet and read about it, read real facts and statistics. You can just hear people talking about how different it is when you go to the grocery store now and what you're paying to feed your family now or what restaurants cost. And all of those things are real. We're all feeling it. And it's so important to understand the landscape of debt as it affects your personal finances on this side of your lifetime, but it's going to also affect your personal finances and your legacy and your planning. When you're either sick and incapacitated, you have to pay for long-term care, you have to pay for care to come in your home. When you die and you want to leave money to your children, your grandchildren, your spouse, or whomever, debt can affect so much of that. And so you just need to have an understanding of it, be aware of it, because it doesn't just magically go away. One of the things that we see is people will get sick and they'll need their healthcare agent to step in, they'll need their financial power of attorney to step in. And the healthcare agent and the financial power of attorney won't know anything about the bills that the person is paying. They won't know that they need to continue to pay a credit card bill, or they won't know about the mortgage on the house or the car note. So they're at a loss, they're stuck. And that can create a situation where the person who is sick is having negative credit events like missed payments, late payments, fees being charged to them. If it gets serious enough and the debt is secured, then you're looking at foreclosure, share of sale, repossession, things of that nature. And those are all things that we would all agree we want to avoid, especially if you're somebody who's been paying your bills regularly. And I don't know where I read this or heard this, maybe from a financial advisor or a friend that I was talking to, but a lot of Americans are only 2 missed paychecks away from losing the house. or losing the car or whatever, because that's how tight a lot of people are living with their monthly bills, their debt, as it relates back to their income. Another thing that we see with debt is people have a really common misperception that when they die, their debt just goes away. Oh, I own this house and I died, the mortgage is no more. That's not a thing. That's not reality. If you die, your mortgage is still very much there. Now we just have people wanting to foreclose on that mortgage and that property because nobody's paying it right now. So that continues to be due and owing. Same as on a car. What happens if you just don't pay your lease or you just don't pay the note? Well, it doesn't go away. It still needs to be recovered by the company, the financial institution that made that loan to you. The only thing that I'm aware of right now that goes away upon your death are federal student loans. If you've refinanced your student loans and they're with a private company and Discover services your student loans now, they're still due and owing, even if you die. It doesn't just go away because now you've taken out a loan with a private company that didn't guarantee you or didn't say to you that when you die, this goes away. Your credit cards would still be due and owing. And so they may have, if you die and you have credit card debt, they may have a claim against your estate. In fact, if your estate goes through probate, there's an entire notice period, an amount of time that the courts give to creditors to receive notice of the fact that there's a probate and then file claims into the probate for unpaid amounts of money. So this could be hospital bills, this could be credit card debt, it could be private loans that are unsecured, but people will want their money when you're gone. That could really affect a lot of what happens with the disposition of your estate. You might be thinking, I want to leave all this money to my kids or my grandkids or my spouse, but in reality, a lot of it could be getting eaten up by debt that's owed on the property. Now, if you are a person who leaves money to a spouse and children, there are some assets that are exempt from collection of debt that you're entitled to. There's a family allowance for estates that don't have enough money to cover the bills and the fees, but people still need to be supported. So, and they're not super complicated rules, but they're technical and you need to know about them. And you need to know that certain things would be exempt, like the house could be exempt. If you have minor children and all the money goes to minor children, everything could be exempt from repayment of debt. But I don't think it's a good strategy to hedge your bets and hoping that when you go, if you have debt, that the rest of the estate is exempt from repayment of debt. You want to definitely have a plan in place for, you know, do you have life insurance that would cover paying off some of this stuff? What do you have available to you? What resources can you pull together or create so that it's not a hardship and a hassle on your family members when you die because you left a bunch of debt behind? So just some things to think about. You definitely want to consider that. I'm finding there's also a lack of information, or we're not talking a lot about the debt creation that happens for older people, older Americans, and is happening for them right now. People on fixed incomes are definitely feeling the pinch of rising costs of various things because their income, by definition of being fixed, doesn't go up with it. So we definitely see older people who have been very fiscally responsible throughout their lives spending more on credit cards, and so finding out, and they tend to be more private with their finances. They're maybe not telling their children all of these things, and then their children are coming to find out that there are all these credit card bills that they are being asked to repay through the estate when these older people pass away. I've also seen many older people taking out second mortgages, HELOCs, or even reverse mortgages on their homes. And it is important, and I will say there are a time and place for all of those things. Some people need to focus on having their lifetime needs met. It is all fine and good to say we want to leave money to our children and our grandchildren and so on, but not at the risk of impoverishing yourself or having your parents impoverish themselves so that you can get the house when they're gone or whatever, they do have a right and a need to access money for lifetime care, for comfort, for standard of living, for all of those things. So there is a time and a place for a second mortgage, a HELOC. I don't know enough about reverse mortgages to go out and promote them, but there are people that take them out. And so obviously they needed money to be able to live on. But it's so important that there is good education about what happens to that mortgage, the fact that it still has to be paid regardless of type. The home may need to be sold to pay that off, or it has to be paid when the person passes away. Otherwise, you could be in a situation where the interest starts compounding very quickly, where the principal went from zero interest, or just the principal, and then all of a sudden we have all this interest compounding, and it's compounding fast, it's being added back to the principal, and now we're at risk of loss of property. But it's all about information. It's all about getting out there and hearing and understanding what it is that can happen, the reality of the debt landscape in that picture when somebody passes away. If you found value in this, or if you have questions, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to this channel so you never miss an update from me about all things that pertain to your legacy. But yeah, take care.